I'm Michael Smith.
I'm Chuck Osborne.
And welcome to the Iron Capital Podcast,
where we break down investment stuff with anecdotes and stories that non-financial geeks can understand. Hey, this is Chuck. It is Friday, October 13th, 2023, and this is episode 6 of the Iron Capital Podcast. This is usually the time when Michael asks me what's on my mind, but Michael's not here today because we have two special guests. The first is my daughter, Mary Frost, and her good friend, Arden. You want to introduce yourselves?
Okay, I'm Mary Frost, and I really like pickles.
And I'm Arden Huffman, and I don't like pickles.
Okay, we've established a pickle relationship there. So, why do we have our two special guests here today? The reason is that one of the things that we say over and over again at Iron Capital, it's a quote from Einstein, is that if you truly understand something, you can explain it simply. Many people in my industry almost pride themselves in trying to confuse their customers. And to prove that point, we are taking on a little challenge today. Can I explain investing to two 7th graders? All right. You're both in 7th grade, correct?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to start with in the beginning, and we're going to ask what you know about investing so far. Mary Frost, what do you know about investing?
Okay, so I know that if you have money and you put it into like a business or something, and then that business like doubles its money, your money doubles.
Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Arden?
I really don't know much, but I know there's something called stocks, and then I know that like the more time you leave money in a bank account, like the price increases.
It grows with interest.
Yes.
Okay, those are pretty good answers. Those are that's not far off. So when you invest money, basically what you're doing is you're setting your money aside in something that you think will grow. All right, so you're trying to grow that money for the future. Instead of spending it today, we're going to put it in something and we're going to make it grow for the future. And there are really only two ways to do that. Okay, so if you girls don't remember anything else I say today, hopefully you will remember this. You will remember it for the rest of your life because any type of investment you will ever make always goes into one of two very broad categories. All right, the first is that you buy something that you believe will increase in value over time. All right, now that could be a business. All right, that is one of the most common investments out there is people will invest in a business, and we'll talk about why investing in a business makes sense. But it could also be a work of art. It could be a bar of gold. It could be a barrel of oil. It could be lots of things. It doesn't really matter what it is. But it is something that you actually are going to purchase, that you own, that you believe will increase in value over time. Does that make sense? Okay. We refer to that in our business as equity. Okay. So equity investing is any time you're investing in something that you believe is going to increase in value while you own it. All right. Now there is another way to invest money. And that's, Arden, you kind of talked about that when you talked about putting money in the bank. All right, when you put money in the bank, what you are in essence doing is you're actually loaning your money to the bank. And the bank is going to use your money while it sits there on deposit. They're going to use that money to make loans to other people. Have you ever watched the movie It's a Wonderful Life at Christmas time?
Yes.
You have never watched It's a Wonderful Life? I can't believe you have not shown your best friend It's a Wonderful Life
My
at
dad
Christmas
tries
time.
to get me to watch it, but I don't watch it.
Okay. Well, there's a great scene in that movie that explains exactly how banks work. And the main character in that movie is actually a banker, and his job is to take money that people want to save, and then he uses that money to loan it out to people so that they can buy houses. All right, and so That's what banks do. And that's the second kind of way that you can invest. You invest by loaning your money to someone else who is going to pay you back plus interest. All right. So they're going to pay you back what you loaned them plus interest. So the money is going to grow over time. All right. In the financial markets, we refer to these two ways of investing as stocks and bonds. All right. So stock is simply ownership in a company. All right. If you own stock in Coca-Cola, because Arden is drinking a Coca-Cola, and we are here in Atlanta, Georgia, the home of Coca-Cola. And if you own stock in Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola is doing well and they're making money, then you are going to do well because you're one of the owners. All right. It's just like owning your own business. Now, have you ever owned your own business, Mary Frost?
I tried to, but I didn't because I failed.
Because you failed. Okay. Can you? And what was the name of this business?
Well, there's been a lot of them.
Okay.
One was the crumbly cookie.
Yeah, let's talk about the crumbly
I
cookie.
remember that one.
Arden remembers the crumbly cookie. Arden, you remember what the business plan was for the crumbly cookie?
Make cookies and sell them at school.
That's right. Mary Frost was going to make cookies and sell her homemade cookies at school. And it worked for, about a month?
Yeah, probably.
And then I think Mary Frost got tired of making cookies.
Yeah.
But that's a great example, okay? That was a business that you owned yourself. Now, if you had really stuck to it and you had kept making cookies, and now you would be making cookies not only for your own school, but for every other school in Atlanta, that would be a pretty big business making a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not what happened, right? And so when owning a business, it takes risk because most businesses do fail. Most businesses do not succeed and last. But the ones that do can become very successful. And that's why you're willing to take more risk because you can get a better return if that business does really well. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's stock. Bonds, again, are just simply a loan. All right. Arden, have you ever borrowed money? For anything?
I don't
And then had to pay it back?
Well, I mean, if I'm at the store and I don't have money, I ask my mom to buy it, and then I pay her back when I get home.
Okay, so there you go. You have borrowed money, okay? And if you pay it back out of your allowance when you get home, then she probably doesn't charge you any interest, does she? She just gets paid back, right? Because she's going to get paid back pretty quickly. But if you had to take a longer loan, let's say, for example, you had to loan money from your brother. No, that would be hard.
He wouldn't let me take any money.
He probably wouldn't. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that he did give it to you. Do you think he would want just his money back, or do you think he'd want a little extra interest?
He'd want a lot extra interest.
He would probably want a lot of extra interest. All right, and that's how you make money in loans. The most common loans that individuals take are most people will loan money to buy a car. Okay, and you have to pay that back. Usually you pay it back over about 5 years, all right? And then almost everyone borrows money to buy a house because that is a huge expense. And you can borrow money for the most common loan for a house would be 30 years. So you actually borrow the money to buy the house, and then you're paying the bank back for 30 years. And you're paying interest while you're paying it back, all right? But individuals are not the only ones that take loans, all right? Businesses take loans, governments take loans, and when businesses or governments have to borrow money, we call that a bond, all right? So if the city of Atlanta or the state of Georgia or the federal government or Coca-Cola needs to borrow money, they issue bonds, all right? And when they issue those bonds, they are promising to pay the money back plus interest. Right. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So which do you think is safer, stocks or bonds?
Stocks.
Why would you say stocks are safer?
Because bonds.
Bonds? What do you think,
I don't
Arden?
really know, but it seems like you think bonds is the right answer.
Well, do you think it's safer to own a business that could go out of business, or do you think it's safer to loan your money to someone like, I don't know, the federal government who promises to pay it back?
Loan my money.
Yeah, because you have a promise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, you've got a promise that they are going to pay it back plus interest. Whereas when you're investing in a stock, you are actually one of the owners of the company. Okay, and so your future is going to be tied to whatever happens to that company. All right. Now, it doesn't mean that everyone is safe to loan money to, does it?
No.
No, it would not. If you loaned your money to someone who was not able to pay it back, then that could be a very risky investment. Okay. And in the bond market, we refer to those as high yield bonds, okay, because they have to pay a higher interest rate if they don't have very good credit. Okay? All right. So those are stocks and bonds, and those are your primary ways of investing money. All right. However, most people don't invest initially anyway directly in stocks or in bonds, because most people when they start out don't have a lot of money. Do you all have a lot of money to invest?
No.
No. Now, do you own any stocks, Mary Frost?
I think so. Yeah.
You do. Do you know which stocks you own?
Disney.
That's right. You own Disney.
Mm-hmm. Amazon.
I believe you might own Amazon.
And it's this third one. It's like a tech company. I don't know.
There's one that was a store that you insisted on buying that because your mother shops there all the time and gets lots of our stuff.
Costco?
That's right. You own Costco.
I own Costco.
Okay. So Mary Frost does own some individual stocks. She's investing in those for college. That was money that her grandparents gave her, that she is investing in keeping that money for education. Arden, have you ever made any investments?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Well, most people, when they first make investments, they will actually invest in something called a mutual fund. Okay, have you ever heard of a mutual fund?
No.
You've never heard of a mutual fund? Well, a mutual fund is a way for the average investor to hire a professional money manager to actually pick the stocks and bonds that they invest in for them. So they simply put the money in the fund. The money is commingled with lots of other investors, and it's then invested in stocks and bonds that the mutual fund manager thinks is appropriate. All right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what people have most of the time in their retirement plan. So why do you think most people invest?
So they
don't have to work.
Yeah, so they don't have to work.
So they don't have to work when they're old.
Yeah.
Exactly, Arden. And right, there are many reasons to invest money. Like I said, all you're doing when you invest is you're trying to put money into something that will grow over time and be larger when you need it. So the number one reason for doing that is retirement. All right, retirement is the number one cause for most people to invest money. Now there are other goals. For example, like we said, Mary Frost is investing because that money is earmarked for education, right? Because college is also a very big expense. All right. The people may invest to save up to buy a house. They may invest for all kinds of different reasons. But the number one reason in America that people invest is they invest for retirement. All right. And so most of them are going to invest through a retirement plan at work, and their introduction into investing is going to be through mutual funds that are in that retirement plan. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Do you all have any questions?
Could you just summarize just a quick recap of everything
A quick recap of everything.
Quick recap.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, what were the one thing that I told you to remember, that 2 ways to invest money?
Ooh, stocks
Bonds.
and bonds. Yeah.
Stocks and bonds, and right, and that's what we refer to them as in the financial markets. But do they always have to be a stock, and does it always have to be a bond?
No.
All right.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
No.
Wait, no.
Because what else
No.
did I say it could be?
A loan.
Right, you could be a loan. So like a bond would be a loan to a corporation, but you could loan your money to your next door neighbor. You could loan your money to your brother. Would you loan money to your brother?
No.
No, he doesn't have good credit.
No.
He does not have good credit. So how about you, Arden? Would you loan money to your brother?
It depends how much.
It depends on how much. I think the Huffman family may be a little nicer than the Osbornes. The 2 ways you can invest is by buying something that you own that you think will increase in value. And most of the time that is stocks. That's usually what we're talking about. But it can be lots of other things. All right. It can be, like I said, a bar of gold. It could be a painting. It could be a baseball card. People actually collect baseball cards, and they can increase in value over time. All right. There's lots of things that you could buy that you think will increase in value over time. The reason that most people think of stocks, and why stocks are probably the best investment, is because when you're an owner of a company can actually change and grow. All right. So take Coca-Cola, for example. Coca-Cola started many, many years ago in Atlanta as a local soda fountain. And now they are the largest beverage company in the world. All right. So that was a lot of change over a long period of time. Okay. And so that's why most people think of stocks. But again, equity could be equity in anything. It could be equity in your house. It could be equity in a commodity like gold or oil. It could be art. It could be lots of different things. But for some reason, you believe that it's going to increase in value over time. All right. What was the second way we invest?
Bonds.
Bonds. And what is a bond?
A loan.
That's right. A bond is a loan. That's all it is. When you purchase a bond, you are loaning your money to someone else. All right. And what's important, and y'all are too young to be exposed to this, but as you get older and you get your first jobs, and you may talk to other people who want to advise you and help you invest money, they're going to talk about lots of things that are oftentimes seem very complicated. They're going to talk about different strategies, different products, all these things that seem very complicated. And what you have to remember is that everything always goes back to either being something you own that you think will increase in value, or a loan to someone who will pay you back plus interest. So what do you think are probably the 2 most important questions you should ask about an investment?
Is it a stock or a bond?
Well, that's a good question, but let's just say if it's a stock. And again, it doesn't have to be stock. It's just something that you own that you think will increase in value. All right. What do you think is a good question to ask?
Is it really sought after?
Right. Is it sought after? Or what you're kind of getting to there is, why is it going to increase in value? All right. There's got to be a reason to understand, okay, why is this going to increase in value? All right. If you're investing by loaning your money to someone else, like a bond, what do you think is the most important question to ask?
Will you pay me back?
Well, what's the interest rate?
Well, what's the interest rate is very important as well, But also, I think Mary Frost may be right there, is that, can you pay me back? All right. Are you actually going to be able to pay me back? So, girls, a few years before you were born, Maverick, 2 years before you all were born, Arden, you were born in 2010 as well,
Yes.
correct? So 2 years before you were born, the United States went through a horrible financial crisis. It was the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Have you all learned about the Great Depression at school? A little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you all heard anything about the financial crisis from 2008?
Well, I've heard it like mentioned, but I don't really know anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because it happened before you were born. But in the financial crisis of 2008, what happened was that banks were making mortgage loans to people that couldn't pay the mortgage loan back. All right. And then what they were doing is they were packaging those loans into these seemingly very complicated products. All right. And then they were not only selling those products to people outside the banking system, but they were also investing in them themselves. They were actually buying these products that had hundreds of loans inside. Okay, and the idea was that even though each one of those loans wasn't very safe because we knew we were loaning it to people that couldn't pay it back, if you packaged enough of them together, you would make it safe because there would just be a lot of them in that package. Does that make sense? Okay, that's what the bankers thought too. But here's what happened, and this is what happened so many times in the markets. I think people forgot what are the two ways to invest money.
Stocks and bonds.
Stocks and bonds. Again, when you're talking about stock, we're talking about owning something, right? We own something. It doesn't have to be a stock. It could be anything. Often it is a stock, but it could be anything. We own something that we think is going to increase in value, or what's the other way?
Bonds.
Loans.
Bonds. We're loaning, right. We are loaning our money to someone else. And what's the most important question to ask when you loan your money to someone else?
Can you pay me back?
Can you pay me back? And that was the question that these extremely intelligent, very sophisticated investors forgot to ask in 2008. And they almost destroyed the financial world because of it. All right? And so the lesson here, girls, is that while investing can get very complicated, or at least it can seem that way on the surface, and there's a lot of people who sell investments that want to make it seem complicated because that's how they make a living. The reality is it always boils down to one of two things. Always ask yourself, what do I own and why is it going to increase in value? Or who am I loaning my money to? And are they going to be able to pay me back? Does that make sense? Y'all think y'all can handle that as you grow up and start investing money for your future?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for me?
What if you invest in like a bad company and it like goes out of business? Are you like in debt or something?
That's a great question. If you invest in a bad company that goes out of business, and we'll talk about, again, there's two ways to invest. Now, if you're the owner of that business, what do you think might happen to you?
Bankrupt?
Right. The business will go bankrupt, and basically your investment will go to zero. So assuming the company actually goes to become worthless, and that oftentimes is not the case. And even when a company declares bankruptcy, there's still some value there that the shareholders will get. But let's just assume worst case scenario, it actually goes to zero. Then you, as a stockholder, that money's lost. Whatever you invested in that company is going to be lost. Okay, and and what do we do when we make a mistake and get hurt?
You learn from it.
That's right. And hopefully what happens is you learn from it. Okay. And all the greatest investors in the world have all made mistakes. They've all lost money on investments. but they learn from it, and that's how they get better going forward. All right. Now, the other way to invest, of course, is to loan money. So what happens if you've loaned your money to a company that went under?
It's
Can you
gone.
sue them?
Well, it's not completely gone. Because typically when you loan your money, now it'll depend on the type of the loan and the bond, but like again, when people borrow money, what are the two main things that they borrow money on?
From the houses and cars.
Right, and houses and cars have value, right? So you think about if you're the bank and you've loaned your money to someone to purchase a house, and that individual is not able to pay their mortgage, they can't pay the loan back, then what does the bank do?
Give you the house or car.
Right. The borrower has to let the bank take over the house. Okay. And then the bank can sell the house, and so the bank will get at least some of their money back when they sell the house. Does that make sense? Well, it's the same thing in business. So the bondholders, because that was a loan, it has to be backed by the assets of the business. So let's just say the business has a factory, or they have equipment, or maybe they have real estate. The business is going to have to sell those assets in order to give money back to the people who loaned them money. All right. Now, you may not get all your money back, and it's going to depend on a lot of different factors and how bad the business was, but the bondholders are likely to get some of their money back. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, and that's, again, one of the reasons why people think the bonds are safer than stocks. All right. Any questions, Arden?
Well, it's kind of like a little off topic, but like the lottery, because like I know like if you win, you can take it all, or like, but if you take it all, you get half or something like that. But if you like take it over time, you get it all. Like,
Right. Well, here's yes. So the lottery itself is actually a form of gambling. And matter of fact, it used to be run by the mob. They called it the numbers. And you'll see this in old movies sometimes. People will go around neighborhoods and people will choose their numbers. And if your numbers hit that day, then you would get the jackpot of all the people that put money into that pot. And that's basically how the lottery works. People will pay the lottery to pick their set of numbers. And if their numbers win, then they're the winner. But what you're really talking about, Arden, is an investment which is called an annuity. Okay, and an annuity is a contract. It's somewhat like a loan. You give your money to an insurance company, and then they're going to promise you to pay you an income stream for the rest of your life. Okay, because of the money that you gave to the insurance company. All right? Does that make sense? Okay. So when in the lottery, the amount that they publicize and show is the total amount of income that you would get if you took the annuity option. And what that means is you would get a monthly check, every month from the lottery organization. And usually with lotteries, it's for a certain number of years, maybe like 20 years or something. And the amount that they publicize, that's the amount that you would get over that 20-year period. Okay. But that amount includes not only the amount that you initially had, but also the interest that you made because you loaned your money to the insurance company. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you just choose not to take the annuity option, but you choose the lump sum option, then you're only going to get the initial amount of money, which is going to be less than what they advertised. All right. You got that? Mm-hmm. Okay. However, most lottery winners will take the lump sum because most of the time, most of the time they waste the money and in a few years they're broke again. But if they didn't do that, they could actually make more by investing the money themselves than what the interest that they would get on the annuity. Does that, okay? So, any other questions?
Nope.
Nope.
All right. Do you think this was helpful?
Yes.
Did you learn anything about investing?
Well, like I knew there's an app called Stocks, but I never knew what it was. So now I kind of know what it does.
I can take
Yeah.
them out of my question mark folder now.
Your question mark folder?
Yeah, on my phone I have a folder marked question mark.
And
Because I don't know what they do.
because you don't know what they do?
Mm-hmm.
All right, but now you know what they do.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I got, since we're wrapping up, I'm going to quiz you. What are the 2 ways you can invest money?
Stocks and bonds.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Stock. And what are stocks?
Investment is something you
Investments.
think will increase over time.
Right, it's ownership, right?
Yep.
Ownership.
And what's a bond?
A loan.
All right. All right. You think you got it?
I
Yep.
think so.
All right. I think we got it.
Yay.
So there you go. We can teach investing to 7th graders from Atlanta Classical Academy here in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Iron Capital Advisors is an independent registered investment advisory firm headquartered in Atlanta with clients nationwide. Learn more about us at ironcapitaladvisors.com. The Iron Capital podcast is produced by Iron Capital Advisors. Our awesome original theme music was written and performed by Michael Smith and Leah Calvert. This content is for educational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions or advice. Clients and employees of Iron Capital may maintain positions in the securities discussed. Please like and subscribe to the Iron Capital podcast on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.